And so, yes, there's a lot of interpretation. Now, acting in terms of standing up and physically using your entire instrument is not going to be part of our event. We're mostly going to be sitting down in the Reader's Theater format. However, with that said, whatever acting we are able to generate from this sitting position, facial expressions and body language, which you really can communicate quite a bit as you're sitting, will be part of our experience. So yeah, we're encouraging everyone to really bring this book as alive as they possibly can.
So let's talk about the book.
Okay.
All right. Give us the clearest synopsis of what Fahrenheit 451 is all about.
All right.
Okay.
This is your job.
All right.
Yes. This was his baby. I have to say that. He brought this to us.
So it takes place in an unnamed, futuristic, we assume, society where firemen no longer put out fires, they start fires. And they no longer spray water from their hoses, they spray kerosene so that they can burn books. And what Bradbury does in the novel that has been a little bit misinterpreted in the last 50, 60 years, I guess, since it was published, is that it's usually interpreted as a book that's strictly about government censorship and book banning. And Bradbury actually wrote it with a very futuristic eye toward the role that television was playing in distracting people, television and other types of technology as well.
And let me just jump in here. This was written in 1953?
53, correct.
So
yeah.
This kind of conversation that he wanted to create in his book, was it written in 1953?
Yes,
Yeah.
It's amazing when
It's
you read it
remarkable.
now to see the parallels of what's actually happened. There's the character of Mildred is the protagonist's wife, and she is forever watching these giant screen televisions, and she has these what they're called seashells, but they're earbuds basically. So he kind of foretold that whole trend for people always having their earbuds stuck in their ears.
So I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, no problem. And so the background of the book, I guess, is that people have just stopped reading. They've lost interest in reading. They're too distracted. They're too taken by their technological devices. They're too confused by the whole act of reading because they encounter so many different ideas that they can't make heads or tails of them, and they haven't been. The education system is presumably, it's not really addressed in the book, but Bradbury talked about that what he saw happening in the education system really worried him, and he was making a comment that people just weren't able to absorb these ideas about philosophy or religion or politics or anything, so they give up reading. And that leads the government to say, okay, yeah, this is a good idea. Books aren't such a great thing. They just confuse people, so let's make sure nobody has any. And that's the basis. We meet the protagonist, Guy Montag, at the start of his day, or at the end of his day, actually, when he's very happy in his work. He's been out burning books. He doesn't see any kind of conflict or any kind of internal conflict about what he's doing. And then he meets this young woman, Clarice, who's very strange and very inquisitive, and she asks him if he's happy. And that starts a whole internal process for him where he's questioning what he's part of and whether this society is really worth saving. And we then meet his wife, who is quite a character. She's completely taken with her television set and her seashell earpods, and she can't function without sleeping pills and all kinds of other devices. So,
God, I really don't like it that this is kind of foretold what we experience today in 2013.
Yeah, it's
really pretty terrifying, actually, isn't it?
And it's one of the reasons that I think we felt this was a perfect book to start our marathon Readers Theater with, is that it addresses so many of those things, and it gets at the issue of, can people sit down and read a book for this many hours at a time, or are we too distracted? And I have the same problem. I get distracted and think, should I check my phone? Did I get a text message? But this is what we're trying to encourage, is for people to actually dig into this book and see the themes that Bradbury addressed are all about the need for actually deep reading and deep thinking and concentrating on what what you're doing at the moment.
And the title might seem odd to people. Do you know the context of the title? Mm-hmm. Which is?
Bradbury decided he came up with this idea to name the book after or I think he didn't necessarily initially name the book this. He initially named it The Fireman after the protagonist.
I didn't know that.
But his thought was he wanted to know what the temperature was at which book paper would burn. So he began calling researchers, scientific researchers at UCLA and I think Stanford University, and they couldn't tell him. They said, we really don't know. So he called his local fire department, and someone answered the phone and put him on hold and said, I'll find out for you. And he came back and he said, it's 451 degrees Fahrenheit. So Bradbury said, well, I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds like a cool title. So it became Fahrenheit 451.
How interesting is that he had this primary character as a fireman, and then it was the fireman that gave him the answer to the degree at which paper burns, and became the title of the book. That's
right.
Really.
Right.
You know, the more we talk about this, the more astonishing it feels to me, particularly with the subject matter that he was exploring so many decades in advance of that conversation really happening in the world as it does in our daily lives. So talk to me a little bit about why the importance of reading and cultural stimulation in relationship to the EDGE ensemble is something that's important to you, and how it was you went about choosing people to participate in this from the educational system. I mean, I just think that tie-in is brilliant.
Well, storytelling, I mean, that's the heart of what we do. We embrace the story, and we want to bring it to life as much as possible. And we like it. I like it all. We love film, excellent stories told to you by television, live theater, of course, that's where my heart really is. The reading of a novel, and the reading of a novel out loud, all of those celebration of the stories of the human experience is something we're very drawn to, and want to continue to develop different programs exploring the ways to celebrate stories. We're also, a big part of our mission is to start to get young people involved in the art of storytelling in all the various ways, being an actor in a play, or a narrator, or a character in one of the books that we're reading. And we want to encourage as many students and kids in the area to participate in our programs. And so this was our first effort at doing it, and we approached all of the schools in surrounding Keene to participate in this event. And some of them were able to, and some of them not yet, because they really need to build this into their curriculum so that the classes will study the book before they get involved in our event, come and watch the event, and then have assignments connected to that event as well. So we'll probably be doing a lot more of that in our second annual Marathon Readers Theater event. That's a goal that we have. And in this year, we were able to get some of that started with some of the schools that were able to kind of mobilize the program a little bit quicker. Yeah.
And I was just going to add, part of this started because Kim and I have daughters who are the same age and are best friends, which is actually how we met.
Right.
And they were very interested in being part of this. So we started thinking, hey, this would be, Kim really pushed this idea that we need to get more students involved in this. It'll be great to have adults, but we want to make this an educational thing for the community as well.
Well, those are pretty advanced 8th graders.
Yes, they are.
To think that this was a cool story and that it was applicable to today. The other piece I love about what you've just said is the interdisciplinary ability to connect this experience with the classroom experience,
right,
with the work that comes out of that classroom, so enriching. Right. And it doesn't happen enough. So what a perfect storm here where everything comes together to create an event that is really going to be very powerful, I think, in the end. You've given me some terrific notes here, and
I was just going to mention too. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Jump in.
We also kind of harnessed a lot of our connections through the EDGE. It just happened that Dakota Benedetto, who you mentioned, is a teacher, so we asked her to be our liaison with Fall Mountain, and excuse me, Helmut Heidel, who is now doing some other work with the EDGE too, is also a teacher there. So they were our point people to recruit some of their students who they thought would be interested and good readers for this project. And then at Waldorf, we had...
It's Katrina Spensman and Molly McMillan, two ensemble members that have connections at the Waldorf School, and Carl Sherman. He was involved in the process of selecting the students that he knew would be excited and willing to commit to an event of this nature, and so that's how we got those guys involved.
So the schools are Keene Middle School and Fall Mountain Regional High School, Monadnock Waldorf School, and Franklin Elementary School. Now there's
and Surrey,
and Surrey, the charter school,
Village Charter School,
Village Charter School, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this really cool thing that goes on at Franklin Elementary School that I had no idea about until we started discussing today's show. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
We didn't either. Vicki Pittman gave us a call when she found out that we were doing a marathon Readers Theater event. And it was stunning for all of us that at the same time, within just 30 days, there were going to be two events celebrating Ray Bradbury's novel here in Keene, New Hampshire. So they had the idea of creating an adaptation of the ideas in Fahrenheit 451, called, and the name of their event is Operas Burning. And that's what their take on it is. It's the music that's being burned, so that they're trying to preserve operas.
And this is an opera club.
Yes. It's Keene Middle School and Franklin Elementary have an opera club of 5th and 6th graders.
Oh boy, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That is really exciting. So their take on 451 is that operas, and i.e. music,
Yes.
is being destroyed.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And I believe this is there's a collaboration with the Met, right? Is that right? I think there's some
component that was provided by
Yeah. And the Colonial, so they'll end up performing this at the Colonial through this partnership.
Or maybe it's at the Keene Middle School space, I thought. I guess we're not sure, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's the Keene Middle School.
Keene Middle School.
Theater space is where they're going to perform it.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to work with students, or you are working with students on their performance technique?
Well, I think they've got that end all taken care of. We were excited about getting involved with them in some way, and it turned out that it was really covered. And so what we have ended up doing is that they're going to be there on May 11th, the day of our event, and I think on our second break, right before we start back with the end of the novel, they're going to perform a snippet of what you would get to see if you choose to go to their event, which we're very excited about. Again, we're loving that we're going to have some variety in those 5 hours that we're there, that we're not just sitting and listening. We'll listen to the book, and then we'll take a break and have some food, and listen to the book and take a break, have some food, a mini opera moment, and then come back and celebrate the lovely ending of his novel, which is really, I think, very fast-paced and exciting. One of the things I love about the ending of it is that it really shows how we can get the media all excited when there's something happening, maybe of a tragic nature. Everything is mobilized, and we're watching it from moment to moment to moment. Well, Ray Bradbury has that in his book way back when in 1953. It's the first media frenzy over the event, which is, of course, what's happening to Guy Montag at that point in time.
You know, God, maybe I'll cancel my plans for May 11th. This is just sounding more and more exciting.
We love to hear that.
What strikes me about your plans is how ambitious they are, and I wonder, as a theater company, how this relates to your mission. I mean, you've talked about the fact that you want to engage the broader community, that you have particular outreach to youth in the community, and you certainly are exemplifying that effort with this production. But overall, I mean, you've been around for what again? 30 years? 25 years?
23, yeah, 23
years. So is this an idea that has evolved over time, or has this always been part of your place in the community?
Yeah, yes, I think it has always been part of it. Our primary mission is that the Edge wants to be a resident professional ensemble theater company for Keene, New Hampshire. And you want to provide a service for a community that needs to be provided. There's a space for you, and the community is longing for this space to be filled with this particular thing that you have to offer. So the main